because when you tell kids here, you got to put in more work, they don't understand.
Yeah, they don't get it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wonder how much, like, for example, if we did this for more kids,
it opens up their eyes.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I told my parents this year, for the ones that are going, like, your kids didn't come back, like, not in a bad way, like, knowing, like, okay, this is the work I have to put in, or I don't have it to put in that work.
And let me ask that though, because, and this is why I want to go into your thought process.
Yeah.
So why don't you yank a kid out right away?
So that's one of the few situations where I'll pull you right away. Like, I'll make sure I schedule everything around my practices, my games. I don't miss games. One time I miss a game is like game conflicts. I don't miss things. It's like, if I have that dedication to you guys, I expect it the same way back.
No, but like to the game.
To the game? That way?
You see, this is my mistake. Oh my God. All right. This is Evo Toka Podcast, and on Evo Toka Podcast, we have guests such as Ken and myself, and we built this podcast so that we can help coaches improve their level of coaching to help players become better. And we hope that throughout this podcast, you can take one thing that'll help your level of coaching and take your level of coaching to the next level so that we can help improve American youth soccer. And I'm just going to go straight into the questions. But Cannon, what sparked your interest in the game of soccer?
I always say I was born into a athletic family. So my mom played soccer, my dad played football. So it was always, what sport did I want to play? And obviously I have family that my uncle, he runs a club, and I have all these other connections where I was not forced into it, but it was like, okay, when you're 5, everyone plays soccer. Everyone tries soccer, and I tried baseball and I tried basketball, and I was like, okay, well, which one do I like the most? And soccer was the one that I was thrown into, where for birthdays I get a soccer ball. And, for Christmas it was a soccer ball. And so I was like, okay, this is the one that stuck with me and that I enjoyed the most and that was the most gifted at, thank goodness. Otherwise, it would have been a longer path of like, oh, this is the one I like. Well, maybe I should play something else. But yeah, it was just, I was thrown into an athletic family, and it was, I would have played any sport that they would let me. But soccer was one that definitely rang out to me as like, okay, this is the one I enjoy the most. And I think the free-flowing aspect, where baseball, I had to be yanked off the field multiple times because I'm playing with my glove because the game has stopped. Yeah. Or, basketball, I'm sitting on the bench and then I go in for 5 minutes and I come off, and soccer's like, okay, playing. It's like music where you're flowing through the whole time. So it was like, all right, cut.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, if it wasn't for soccer, what sport would you consider?
I always say, if I was smart, I would have probably pursued track more. You've seen me play. I'm very fast, and I have the ability to run. And the 400 was, I was great at it, and I had offers in high school to continue track. But the heart was like, hey, soccer's what you want to do. Yeah. And my brain was like, oh, pretty good. Yeah, we're pretty good at track.
In terms of your top speed.
Yeah, that would have been probably, if I was, if it went back in time, I was like, well, I can't do soccer. I would have pursued track heavily. Like, okay, this is the one I'm going to do.
Okay. And and this is kind of the same question. Yeah. But is there any point in your life as far as you falling in love with the game, you're like, oh, I know this is what I want to pursue?
It was my freshman year, or maybe my sophomore year, but I went to Europe with Ed. And I had gone to Europe, and I went to an itty-bitty school where there was, I think my graduating class was 62. And so it was tiny. So if you're an athlete, we played, soccer, we played basketball, ran track, you did everything.
Oh, you did everything.
Exactly. So it was like, at that point I was doing everything. There wasn't really a club where I grew up. So I played club growing up, but then I stopped once I moved to Colorado. And when I went to Europe that first year with Ed, I was playing with kids who played year-round. And I realized quickly, like, oh, I'm not that far behind. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, these kids, they're incredible. They play year-round. All they do is soccer. I played 2 months of soccer, then it's into basketball season. And so I went that first year, and I was like, okay, this is something that I love. That isn't just, a hobby where it's almost, 2 months, 3 months out of the year. It's something that if I want to do it, I can do it. And I remember I came back that first year from Europe, and Ed gave me that diet plan and a workout plan for even when I was doing basketball, that I was still getting touches. And I'm still, you know, even though I don't have a club coach out there, I have connections of like, okay, if I need to figure out my left foot sucks or whatever it is, what can I do to improve it? I had this list of, you know, things I could do in my free time that now when I was like, okay, this is it.
And you actually followed it?
I followed it
in high school.
I did. I knew because again, I'm playing against and with kids that play year round, but I come down here for summer, and so I was like, I wanted to keep up. It wasn't like I could be like, I'll just rely on pure athleticism and athletics. Yeah, if you're the fastest, strongest, biggest kid, it's like down here when you play 4v4. If you get one kid that's really, really good, that's just fast and strong, can hit a ball, you win games. Like even if the other team has 2 or 3 kids, if your kid's that much better, it doesn't matter. And so up there, I was like that from middle school all the way through high school, where if you have 2 or 3 kids that can just actually play soccer, you still win games. And so I was like, oh, I'm good. And then I'd come here and I'm like, wait, there's a whole different world of soccer than, you know, the itty bitty mountain town soccer experience.
And where in Europe did you go?
My first year, we went to Germany, Denmark, Sweden. Okay. So that was my first year. I've been to Italy, San Marino, Iceland, the Czech Republic. I think that's the majority of what I can think of right now that I've been to, all with Ed through his Stars and Stripes program. That's during summer that we go on. Okay. And this year I get to go as a coach actually for the first time.
You're going as a coach?
Yeah, I get to bring my 2011 group there. Some of them are going. Okay. So it's exciting.
And you know, it's funny that you say that. I didn't think of this before, but in terms of like your experience at that time in high school and going there and realizing, oh, I got to put in this much work. Yeah. Like, I wonder, because, you know, when you tell kids here, you got to put in more work, they don't understand.
Yeah, they don't get it.
You know what I mean? Like, I wonder how much, like, for example, if we did this for more kids in terms of going to Europe, seeing what the level is. Yeah. And then letting them understand. Yeah, exactly. In terms of, like, what it takes.
It opens up their eyes.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I told my parents this year for the ones that are going, like, your kids didn't come back, like, not in a bad way, like, knowing, like, okay, this is the work I have to put in, or I don't have it to put in that work, which is fine. Either way. Yeah, exactly. It's good to realize early, like, 100%. If they want to play through high school and that's what they want to do, that's fine. 100%. But if they go over and they're like, oh, this is the soccer I want to play, that's when they realize, like, oh, yeah, I'm locked in now. And they come back with a fire and it's kind of like, okay, 100%. It's time to get working.
And I like that because I hear a lot of times coaches are like, oh, what can I do so that my kids can do more outside of practice? And I like this because when kids come across those circumstances, like they know, okay, I watch TV and they are from this country and kids from this country are doing this. That means I have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. When we played against the South African team, the last year I went, remember, they're just the warm-ups they do, you know, they dance, they sing, like the high energy, and everyone's just like enthralled with like what they're doing, but you can see like they're smiling. Like you get some teams here where you show up and the kids just look defeated before the game starts. And it's like, even like my 17 girls we talked about earlier, they are
17-year-old?
17 little
17.
2017.
Okay, 2017.
And so they're, again, yes, everyone wants to win, but I think the first game we played, we got beat like 14-2. And they scored 2 goals and they came off the field saying, did we win? And that was like the, you know, like the peak of my coaching experience. Like they didn't care what the score was. They were having fun. They were putting in work. They got their 2 goals. And then that mind, like, oh, well, we won. Like, we scored twice. That's the only option is that we won now. And that's like, at that age, that's all you want. It's just for them to enjoy it.
And I think that's like, if I had to guess, I would say that's 100% the coaching. Yeah. Because you determine what their priorities are. Yeah. When you're coaching them.
Yeah. Like, obviously, when you get old, I think the best quote I've heard about it is that, development or winning is a byproduct of development. And so every time you win a game, it's because those kids have developed in a way to win that game. Correct. And it's not like I'm not going in thinking, oh, we're going to win every single game, every single week. It's like, if you win, great. If the kids are getting better, that's the overall goal, where when they go, because again, you have stepping stones, where it's academy, club, you know, ODP, whatever you want to say, you know, classic, blah, 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 all the way up to college pro. Yeah. And if like you have a kid that wants to go pro, then it doesn't just be like, all right, you know, it's not tomorrow, we're going to whip you into shape to go pro. It's like, like there's an itty bitty steps in between that, you know, you have to decide, like, if this is really what you want to do, this is what you start doing now. If this is something you might want to do, you got to make up your mind.
100%, 100%. And that's where, again, I think the traveling will help.
Yeah.
And for the next question, what made you believe that you should be a coach?
So I never had thought about coaching. Like, it was something that because when I graduated high school, I went to a year of college, and then I dropped out, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna serve. Be a server. My mom worked in the restaurant industry forever. I played UPSL in Colorado. I'll just enjoy myself, keep playing while I can play, and that was that. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, obviously you can't serve anymore. The restaurants are all closed. And so I was just kind of bumming it out, doing nothing. And I'd go to the gym, but it was like that. That's all the exercise I was getting, and it was kind of like, I think if COVID had ended and I wasn't really in the soccer world, I probably would have stopped playing at that point and just all right, it's time to buckle down, get a job, figure it out. But it was probably 2 months into COVID, Ed called me. He was like, hey, come coach. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just living and, waiting for this. At that point, everyone was like, oh, it's going to be done in a month.
Yeah.
And obviously it wasn't. It wasn't done in a month.
Yeah.
But he's like, look, I have a job opportunity for you. We're still, because in Texas, they're still having some practices, you long as you wear a mask. And they were pretty quick about turning it around where it's like, well, we want these kids still to be outside and experiencing socialization. They don't want these kids to become hermits in their house and don't know how to communicate. He's like, well, I have a team, and I'm trying to build a 13s team, and you want to come coach them? And I was like, I don't know. And then he called me again 2 weeks later and said, okay, I'll move down here. And that was so a month-long conversation on and off with him about moving down here. And then I packed up my stuff and drove from Colorado from Denver to Dallas, and I started coaching. And I realized very quickly, I love playing, but I think I love coaching more because of the impact I have on the younger ones, where it's I have a big chip on my shoulder just from how I grew up and my arm and all these other things, where it's the chip I have on my shoulder is something that I want to portray as it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, what you can or can't do. If you want to play. Yeah. It's that simple, where it's I don't care if you're the worst player in the world at age 10. Something if you really decide you want to be something by age 18. But you just put in more. Yeah, exactly. You just have to understand it's not going to come overnight. I think that's the biggest thing, where when I started coaching, I had kids that they weren't soccer players. Obviously at that point the 2013s were 8 years old, 9 years old, so they weren't supposed to be soccer players yet. And so it was but they loved it. And I was okay, this love that I have is what you have. We can share that, and we can make something out of this.
And when you say that, and you said impact, so you're talking about using soccer as a way to help kids overcome their limiting beliefs.
Yeah, not even just if I think soccer is a good way for I always tell the parents when anytime I have a kid come try out, I want to make them great soccer players, but the real goal is to make them great humans, because it's 1% of the 1% make. Right. And if you're American, unfortunately, you have less percentage than everyone else. But it's if I can go in 20 years in the future, one of the kids I coached is thinking back to oh man, I remember when I had Coach Cannon and he helped me learn this. That's that little piece of even if it's just one memory that sticks with them from age 8, age 12, whatever it is enough for me to okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because I think a lot of people struggle with that, being well, I'm not making an impact every single day. It's in their lives, it's going to be twice a week. That's a lot. For them to see the same person twice a week, a consistent, figure. Yeah, exactly. Where it's if I have the 2013s, that's a team that I hope I can have I had them when they played 4v4 till hopefully they graduate. Obviously Ed will come in or whoever comes in and helps, but that's, those are my babies where I've had them from day one. And that's a group where it's in the future when they have kids, and they have kids that they're coaching rec. Coach Cannon had us do it this way. That's the piece that's okay, that's all I need.
Man, let me tell you, so there's two things I want to say about that. One is, again, on this impact, sometimes a kid doesn't understand how great you were until they're 20.
Until it's done and they get a different coach.
Man, I have so much respect for it, because they're going to remember how you carried yourself.
Yeah.
They're going to remember the commitment that you put into them. And like you said, they're going to say, hey, Coach Cannon did this, and it had a good impact on my life. Man, That's really good. That's really good. Man, there was another point I wanted to make and I forgot, but because I was caught up in listening to what you were saying.
No, you're good.
But man, I may come back to it because I do want to bring back, and very few coaches have it, and I lack in it, and I'll bring that up later. But for the next question, can you describe your coaching philosophy?
Like, do you mean like how I coach like the game itself, or like my ideology of like why? Okay, so I think it's like I want players that want to play for me, and so like I'm big on respect, where it's like I'm not a big yeller. I'm not gonna talk down. I'm not gonna yell. I'm not that person. And so for me, even with the kids I coach, whether they're 7 or whether they're 18, it's I show up, you respect me, I respect you. Let's get the work done. Point blank period, that's it. Yeah. And obviously there's some kids that don't respond well to that, and that's okay. But I think for the majority, I have certain kids on my 2011 team where it's like their play over this last year, because they had a big coaching change, went from, they're a player that they play here and there to one of them, he doesn't come off the field. He's center back. He does his job well. He's not the fastest, but he understands like my expectations for him and my belief in him is enough for him to have the same expectations and belief in himself. And so we played a game on Tuesday. We got smoked, but he was by far the best player. They had a kid that was as big as me, fast. It's just like, again, like we said, especially 11v11s, their first or second year 11v11, the field, we want to hold a high line. They don't understand yet. You can't with the fast player. You got to drop back and have to be smart. But this kid had to be twice his speed. Didn't get beat once just because of his understanding. Like, if I get beat, it's all on my goalie. And he's not a fast, but he gets like, okay, this is my job. This is what and again, he went from, I think he's one that's benefited the most from the coaching change of like, I have the utmost belief in you. You go do your job. I'm not going to, he's the voice in the back. I'm not going to micromanage you. You do your thing. And so I think, like I said, the biggest thing is respect is something I give, and respect is something I'll expect back. And the rest is we can work in between, where it's as long as we have that baseline of respect, the rest is fluctuating.
And this is actually where I was going to go into it, but I want to know, and through talking with you, coaching, maybe I maybe 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. 2 years. But I want to know, how are you? Because this for me, this is a weakness in terms of like, how do I coach my players or communicate with my players in a way that I bring out the best in them through our relationship, and not just so that, oh, this is my coach, I'm just doing, but where players want to coach for you or players want to play for you.
I think it's just like, I think it comes majority from just like you as a person. You're going to find kids that you get along with really well, that, like players like yourself, or if you get a kid that comes in that's like you, that's the easiest kid to coach. He's like, oh, well, I did this and that, and I know how to make this kid work. And it's the same where it's like you get, like, I'm not an attacker. So my defenders get quote unquote neglected because a lot of the drills we do are the attackers will have the advantage because I want us to be able to attack. And that's just, that's my mindset. It's hard to, Ed's the reverse where he wants so simple on the midfield and so simple on the back, where it's like, that's who he is. That's his job. That's what he did when he played. And I think it just comes from, like you said, the respect. Like, as long as you have the utmost respect for your players and they know, like, okay, Coach XYZ is coming in today, and they know the energy I'm bringing, and just, I think it comes also from like how I was raised, whereas I'm a much calmer person. You are as well, where it's you'll, I'm sure, hop on a kid and yell if you have to. I will too, but it's like, it's not your first instinct. It isn't to just, berate a kid and make him feel like he did the worst thing ever. And I think it's a hard thing to get, because if a kid respects you, that's more important than I think than they'll respect me. The kids are like the purest form of a human. Like when the baby comes out, that's the only time when they're not corrupted by anything. They don't know right from wrong, or like they know right from wrong, but it's like, it's the purest form. And so a kid, if they have respect for you, it's because they think you're a good person. And they're them thinking you're a good person. There's no other outside, like, well,
I want to, like, for example, I guess in another case would be like, if you're older, I have respect for my boss because I don't lose my job.
Exactly.
You know what I
The
mean?
kids, they don't care. They have respect for you because they like you as a person. They think you're a good person. They think, oh, he's a cool guy, so I want to be like him.
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of coaches that I coach against a lot of times, sometimes I see how they coach, I'm like, man, like they almost like, yes, again, you can want to win, but it's not the World Cup. They're yelling at these kids, especially like the 11s where they're in Classic D1. Some of these coaches, like, I think Kume, when I coach against him, he's very similar to me, where he's relaxed, he's coaching, he's not just like ripping kids apart.
Yeah.
And then you get, there's certain coaches that I'm like, I don't get, like, if my kid played for some teams, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't have kids, but it's like, I think in my mind, it's like, again, if you don't have the simple, like, human decency to be like, hey, it's okay, you made a mistake, learn from it, we move on. Instead of being like, hey, blah, 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 and then rip them off the field and sit them on the bench for 10 minutes, like, guess what? That kid's going to go out and be terrified to do anything. To play the ball away. And then that's not a kid that's going to get better. Because that kid's scared of making a mistake. Instead of playing to enjoy, they're playing in fear.
And I want to go over this again because this is huge in coaching, but in terms of maybe there's not like specifics, but do you have like a mindset, like when let's say a player does something that he shouldn't do or that you don't like and it's the heat of the game, like what's your thought process in that moment and how to communicate?
So obviously each game, score, all that stuff changes, but a lot of times if it's 0-0, let's say my outside back plays the ball to my goalie where there's pressure on him, my goalie has to clear it right away instead of him being able to play out of the back. The response I have is like, even if my outside back plays the ball where they get a shot one-on-one with the goal, set striker takes it and goes and there's a shot. I'll yell across the field like, hey, the ball has to be to feet, whatever it may be, but I don't yank kids right away. The reason being is I don't want them playing in fear. Unless it's like, let's say it's a 1-1 game or 1-0 game, we get scored on right away. It's one of my, weaker players, whatever it may be, and they made a mistake. You can see their head drops. They don't take them off.
And let me ask that though, because and this is why I want to go into your thought process. Yeah. So why don't you yank a kid out right away?
So if you make a mistake, let's say you have a wide open goal. I yank you off for missing the wide open goal. The next time you get in front of the goal, the only thing you're thinking
I'm going to shoot. Don't
miss, exactly. Or don't make that pass. Don't make that pass.
Pass it to somebody else.
I'm not doing the same thing. I stand in the field. And so even if it's like a lot of time, it'll be a 5-minute where at that point the kid forgot. It's the same thing where like you run a kid after. Ed does this all the time. Well, if a kid doesn't work hard in the game, the team runs after the game. It's like he's going to get effort out of you one way or another. I'm similar where I don't run them right after the game. Most of the time, unless it's like, hey, we did. This is horrible. Yeah. But a lot of times it's like practice the next, Thursday practice is going to be rough because, Sunday's game we did what we need to do. But you have that Thursday practice where they run the whole practice. Come Saturday morning for the game, they don't remember. They don't remember the practice.
Oh, really?
No, they don't care about the practice anymore. They're like, oh, it's a game day.
Oh, okay.
Their brains are so
at that age,
it's white. Where it's like instead of being like, oh, we don't
well, when you're older,
exactly. When you're older, you're more like, oh, fine. But again, you have the compartmentalization in your brain to be like, hey, if I make a mistake, yes, that results in me being benched. Yeah. At that age, they're gonna make mistakes. Like even when we play UPSL, people make mistakes. 100%. It's frustrating, and it's like, oh my
doesn't matter what level.
Exactly. It's like, what are you doing? But then you think about it, again, it's different in UPSL or to the 27 teams. They could take a goal kick wrong 10 times in a row and I won't take them off. They're not going to learn if I just say, hey, all right, someone else take the goal kick. Yeah. And so, it comes from just like the development part of it. But I take them off right away just because I don't want them to be afraid to play. Because let's say a kid makes a pass 5 times in a row and it's good. He makes one bad one, the same exact pass, it gets intercepted, he gets yanked off. He's not making that pass anymore. And that 5 good ones, it's out the window. He just remembers the one bad one that resulted in.
So you don't want there to be that connection. Like if I make a mistake, I come off.
It's like the risk versus reward, right? Like the reward of doing something good in the game, you stay on the field longer. Okay. The risk, I don't want them to be afraid to take the risk to get the reward if it means I'm getting yanked off.
Yes.
So instead of it being like directly like, I make this risk, or like even I talked to one of my outside backs the other day, our first touch has to go forwards. The reason being is if you go backwards every single time, the other team gets to push up.
Correct.
So even if you just look and then come back, that's all it has to be.
100%.
All you have to do is look. And they're like, okay. And that's the idea where it's like, if I don't tell him that, he's scared to lose the ball because he wants to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to play the ball backwards to my center back every time. Now my center back has all this pressure on him. In the game, obviously it's different, but like to make the right pass now, because like, well, my outside back gave it to me. What do I do?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just rely on 3-4 players in the middle to be like, all right, you guys do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else will run around you and just try and find them.
Yeah.
And that's not soccer either. It's like you got to have the moving pieces, the interchangeable pieces. And so, yeah, it's just, I don't want, it's like training, it's not bad, it sounds like training a dog.
Mm.
The dog does something bad, you tell him right away, hey, you don't do that.
Mm.
You don't say, all right, you're on right outside right away. Yeah. The puppy's not going to learn from that. The puppy's like, well, I'm never going here or that. Right. The puppy, wipes on the staircase. Well, I'm never touching the stairs. So now the puppy doesn't go up the stairs anymore. Right. So it's like, you got to train the positives and then like also understand like the discipline of the negatives come from time. Mm. It's not like a immediate yank him, sit him. Now that kid's upset that he's getting fat because he made that one mistake. Mm-hmm. He'll never do the same thing again. Mm-hmm. Maybe it happens good the next time. You saw that.
Yeah. And I want you to go into this further, but one thing that I've also learned, and this is really when playing with older players, but now when you talk about younger players too, almost always when someone makes a mistake, they know right away. Yeah. They feel bad.
That's what I said. You don't have to know it's yourself. Like if I make a bad pass, I know I made a mistake.
Yeah, you don't have to remind him.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it also with that, like, if a kid makes a mistake and his head goes down, then I'll take him. That shows me he's defeated.
Okay. And you don't want to stop him bleeding.
Exactly. Because if he's defeated and he gets the ball again, he makes another bad pass, that kid's out of the game probably for that. Yeah. Like he's checked out. Okay. It's the same thing where like like you said, the first person to know you made a mistake is yourself. Mm. And then the first person that needs to make up for the mistake is yourself. Yeah. So I make a bad pass, I'm running around like a maniac until that ball goes back to the goalie, right? You don't have to be your fault. Yeah. If it goes back to the goalie, okay, I made a mistake. But now the game's back to square one. The game's restarting, you can relax. Yeah. But it's like if I make that's one of the big things where it's like in a game, if you make a mistake, you go. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things where I'll pull you. Yeah. You come sit for me a little bit and be like, hey, look. I love emotional players. Yeah. I think emotion is the most important. I remember the first training you came to, I think you scored a goal and you yelled and you celebrated. And it was Matt. I remember. Matt Huffman was our goalie. And Matt's like, what are you doing? He's like, I play like I practice. And I was like, okay. He's like, how do you know? And it was like, yeah. I remember the first game you scored was the same thing. You yell, where it's just, the passion. And so it's like, if I miss a shot, yeah, I'm yelling, but I'm frustrated. But my head, I have gotten in the habit of I yell like this. Mm-hmm. Once your head drops, your energy. And so it's like if I'm yelling and my head's up, it's like I'm ready to go for the next play. I'm still paying attention. But it's like it's like I said, it's you make a mistake, you work for the mistake. It's not I make a mistake, I pout. That's one of the few situations where I'll pull you right away. But if you make a mistake and you work as hard as you can, even if it ends up in a goal, I'll let you play because guess what? You realize, oh man, I made that mistake. Let me try and make up for it. Obviously, you can't make up for every single mistake. Yeah, it's okay.
And another thing you did that, or you do that's actually good is, so when a player is negative about making a mistake, you're punishing that action, saying if you have a bad attitude when you make a mistake, you're coming out.
Yeah, not the mistake isn't the ball, it's the attitude part. Where it's the attitude or the effort where if you can work hard for me, I will work hard for you. That comes back to respect, where it's like you said, the commitment. Yeah. I'm there 2 days a week, no matter. If I'm sick, obviously, whatever, but I don't think I've missed a practice for a personal event since I moved here. Mm-hmm. I'll make sure I schedule everything around my practices, my games. I don't miss games. Mm-hmm. One time I miss a game is with a game conflict. I don't miss things. And it's like if I have that dedication to you guys, I expect it the same way back. And so it's you give me effort on the field, and you tell me, Coach, I want to go play in college. I will do everything in my power. Mm-hmm. I'll use all my resources to make sure you get to go do what you want to do because you've shown me you want to work for it. Yes. So I think that's a big thing that misses out a lot of times. Work with the respect piece. Where it's like, hey, if we have that mutual respect, even if it's with a 12-year-old and me, if you say, hey, Coach, I want to do this, we'll work towards it. We'll get you there. Yeah.
And I know you had used the example of a player playing it back to the keeper. Yeah. But I just wanted and I know it's hard for me to ask you off the top of the head, but going back to that example, because I want to know a little bit more about, for example, that piece you said where not yanking a player when they make a mistake, but other thought processes whenever your players are playing, they do something they're not supposed to do. Yeah. Or things maybe one other thing.
Yeah. So I guess another thing that does bother me a lot is my players love to just turn, whether there's pressure on their back or like if there's a defender right here and I'm right here and I can't turn,
Mm-hmm.
but they like to turn just face up to players like this when they're this far away from each other. It's not going to work ever. It's never going to work.
Right.
And so that's another thing where it's like, unless someone tells you, which is what a lot of the teams at the younger age, they don't talk to each other really. And a lot of the time, they could be not the best team in the world. They talk to each other. All of a sudden, they're incredible. Like they could have no athletes. They could have players that just kind of play soccer, but they talk.
Sure.
It's like, oh, we can play soccer now.
Yeah.
And so I think turning and just dribbling into people. Like I'm working on it a lot with my teams where taking a touch to space. Like that's one that drives me up a wall when I see a kid take a touch and there's one defender in front of them. And it's right at the defender. It's like, especially when I have kids that are incredibly athletic. It's like, you can take a touch up the line and then go inside. It doesn't have to be right away. And I think a lot of the time, like that's one of those things where it gets like stuck in their brain of like, well, I have to beat a player by going at a player. And that's the wrong like mentality where it's like, there's so many ways to beat a player. You can beat a player.
Oh, correct.
Passing around. You can beat a player running by him. Yeah, you can take him on 1v1. Or if worse comes to worse, you can have to beat him. Like and that's what a lot of the time, like with I guess for the 11s, I got them halfway through the season. They're in class of D2. They're in class of D1 now.
And 11s are?
They're U13.
Okay.
So U13s, I got them halfway through the season. And right now, they're trying to find an identity where they're very much so. We have a few kids that if I put them at striker, he could score every goal for me, no matter what. He's just faster, he's bigger, he's aggressive, he goes to the ball. Like I could say, hey, you play at this position, just score me goals. But then in 2 years, let's say that kid goes plays ECNL. What's my team identity? Yeah. There is none. Yeah. And I have these 10 players that have been playing for me that rely on this one player to score. Yeah. It doesn't work. And so like right now we're struggling in a couple games because I want us to play where we absorb pressure. It's like Tottenham style, is what I would say, where my outside back, center back, outside back have the ball the majority of the time. Where they step up, we find the middle finds the outside back finds an attacking mid, and now we're trying to go on with the field stretched. A lot of time, teams want to try and counter real quick, turn and go. It's like, that's great if you can do it every time. But at this age, U13, you're not going to be able to do it every time. You have kids that play like I said, a long pass, and that's okay. You have kids that, panic on the ball, and that's okay. But when you have, like I said, the one kid that I talked about, center back, he makes the best decisions I think I've seen at that age in a long time. Where every time the ball gets to his feet, he takes a touch, he gets, I can drive forward. He's going in front of me. Yeah. And he drives and drives and drives. And we talked about breaking lines. He breaks an attacking line, and he understands now I can't dribble through the attacking and middle line. If I try and dribble through the midfield line and I lose it, I'm way out of position. Yeah. So he dribbles through the attacking line, he plays the pass to the midfield line. And it's like, okay, so look, now we're out of our space, and the field is stretched because someone's behind you, someone's on the outside of you. That's two people you beat just by dribbling, and I beat two more by passing. Yeah. So it's little things like that where it's like just building the identity of understanding like who we are as a team is hard because again, the kids, they want to win. Yeah. I know they want to win. Yeah. They don't get certain parents that I call you get lucky with soccer parents and not soccer parents. A lot of times the not soccer parents don't get the understanding of developing the game. Yeah. Where it's like, playing the ball backwards. Yes. That's a good thing. Yeah. But the not soccer parents are like, what are we doing? Why are we going backwards? It's like, guys, it's part of the game. Like, we play the ball backwards for my goalie. Because
they're not calculating all the...
They just see it not going forwards. Yeah, exactly. They see the ball's not going forwards, which means we're not scoring right there. But watch. As in a year and a half, I always talk about, I'm sure you have, like we talked about 44, you have a kid that's really, really big, really fast, really strong, can hit a ball. That kid will be good with, let's say, has no training until 99, right? Once you get that second year of 99, everyone's big, everyone's fast, everyone's strong. Yeah. If that kid didn't train, what sets them apart now? Yeah. You went from being, the stud of the studs to a player that's on the field, but what are they doing different?
Yeah, 100%. And this one, I think you kind of mentioned one of the goals in terms of like what you tell parents when they come to the club. But I wanted to say, like, by the time your players are 18, like, what are 1 to 3 goals that you have? Like, when they're 18, I would like this, and this.
So I think the biggest thing is, like, I want them to be self-sufficient human beings. Where, like, I have a few 2012s, they'll ask me, like, Coach, I need a new ball. I'm like, well, have you talked to parents? Like, yeah, but they don't want to give me one. I'm like, well, what do you do at home? And so it's like, a lot of parents always tease me, like, Coach, your work is too much saying in my household. Or if I'm like, hey, especially my 13s, like I want you to juggle 30 minutes a day. They will juggle inside the house. They'll juggle outside. It's like wherever they're at the store, they'll bring the ball with them. And like, coach, you can't tell them they can only juggle outside or something. And I'm like, okay. So like, if I'm like one of my kids recently, he had forgot his blue uniform at a game. Luckily, we had black, so we all went to black. Mm. But I was like, well, where's your blue? He's like, it's in the laundry. I said, do you know how to do your own laundry? Yes, no. I'm like, well, that solves that problem, doesn't it? Yeah. And he goes, yes, but I don't know how to do it. I'm like, well, so learn. Yeah. And so it's like little things like that where it's giving them responsibility.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so I like that because I know I don't do that.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, you have younger teams as well. So
yeah, I mean, my oldest is like 9 years old.
Yeah, so that's just still hard. So like the 2013s are the youngest I do that. Okay. But it's their first year select. And again, they're the U13s are the 2011s. Okay. So they're U11. So my U11s, so 1 year older than your 14. You're 24.
So then you start holding them responsible outside of the game.
Yeah. If you leave something at home,
it's your fault.
It's your fault. The team gets punished.
So in select.
Yeah, select. Once it goes select. So once it becomes like, I had a kid that didn't bring the ball for 3 practices. Mm. So we're running. Yeah. Well, why? It was in my mom's car. I'm like, well, you got the option to take it out of your mom's car, right? Yes. Like, well, yeah, but I came with my dad today. Like, look, then get 2 balls, or you have to get an extra ball where you have it in both cars, or whatever it may be. Or they'll be like, Coach, I'll do with the U11s. I started to do bag checks, where I'll be like, all right, everyone's showing your blue game shorts. Mm. If 7 of them don't have their blue game shorts, we're running 7 sprints. Yeah. And so it's stuff like that where it's like, now guess what? When we go to a game and the other team's in white and we're in white, guess who can change? Yeah. We can change. And if I want to be a real, tough about it, and the other team's supposed to change, I can say, no, we're not going to change. Mm-hmm. But I have the option now where if, let's say, I messed up the schedule, my team doesn't have 5 players that can play because they have their bags back. Correct. Everyone has their bags back. Everyone knows what they need to have. And so it's just holding them accountable for, so yeah, like you said, so accountability is definitely one. Mm. Respect is a big one. Mm. And if they want to continue soccer, like I think one of the best things Ed does is opening up a lot of doors to the college world, where there's kids that come from random schools everywhere and to play for Spurs. And they're going, I play at, like, TK's a great example. I play at Trinity High School in Chicago. And Ed's like, oh, Coach Johnson. And TK's like, what? And like, I didn't even know this guy. Yeah. I didn't even, I just know him over the years. Yeah. And so, like, if they want to continue their soccer journey, I think that's another thing that by the time they're 18, I want them to have that decision made. Or if they don't want to play a nice college, that's fine. But if the kid wants to play, and hopefully they understand, like, the work needed. And so the work ethic, responsibility, accountability, those are like the 3 big things for me where it's like, those are by the time you're 18, you've played for me for however many years. Just be like a quality human being where if something changes, let's say a kid goes to play on trial overseas. Heaven forbid he hurts himself. Soccer's done. Can't play soccer anymore. What does he have? Work left. Yeah. And he should have responsibility, accountability, work ethic. And those 3 things put together, you can do anything you want, really.
And on that too, I know you had mentioned like 1% up, 1% sales pro, but and man, first off, one of the things I like is the self-sufficiency. And that's something I want, because if they have that trait, whether they go to college or not, they're good. Yeah. And another thing on that too is like, with the traits you coach, whether a player goes pro or not, it's important because sometimes like when you don't have those and you're a pro, you get yourself into more trouble because you have access to more, but you don't have it. And also you're going to retire in your 30s, and then what?
Yeah, exactly. Then you're a soccer player that played for X amount of years. Yeah. What are you going to do after that? Yeah. You have like tons of players that go and they make businesses, but they don't make businesses because they're soccer players. It's something that they're passionate in as well. Yeah. They have, those traits where it's like, okay, look, I worked hard for 25 plus years or whatever at this craft. Yeah. And it doesn't just turn off. Like their brain's still pumping. Like it's always going, like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Everything.
Exactly. And so now they're like, well, what can I do? Yeah. Those traits transfer over into whatever business venture or whatever job they want to do.
Let me tell you, I think I'm going to start doing the self-sufficient with my 14th right now.
You should. It's one of those things where it changes a team quick, and you realize it weeds out the lazy ones very fast. As bad as it sounds. Because again, you want to have a culture, right? And the culture you want to have comes from the players. It doesn't matter what type of coach I am. Yeah. If the players are all lazy and they all don't care, that's the culture. It doesn't matter how much I care or
so good. And like, for example, one of the things, not bringing both jerseys.
Yeah. You gotta
have this too often. And now I need to hold the 4 teams accountable because they know.
Yeah, they know what they're supposed to do.
No.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, they're like, oh, my parents are going to take care of it. I don't have to.
Yeah, and that's like yesterday or even Tuesday, I had a kid that wore all black to the game, or in blue.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, do you have a blue uniform? He goes, no. I said, well, you can't play.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, mom's going to get it. I'm like, no, you can't play.
Oh, man, or shin guards is another
Shin guards, yep. If you warm up with shin guards, you show up to practice in shin guards. Another thing we do is tennis shoes. You show up to practice in tennis shoes. The reason being is if I'm practicing and my shoes blow out, can I practice in my Crocs? No, I can't practice in Crocs.
And let me ask you a question. So what do you do if a player forgets his shin guards? Like, how do you treat that situation?
So it depends on the age. So
or let's say select,
then they run. They run the whole practice. You have no ball.
No, but like to the game.
To the game, that's right.
You see, this is my mistake. Oh my God.
So my 2012s are the best about this stuff. Mm-hmm. I have 3 or 4 kids that have 2 pairs of shin guards. I have 3 or 4 kids that have 2 pairs of cleats. So they started to understand, instead of telling coach, hey coach, I don't have shin guards, they go, hey, does anyone have extra shin guards? And so because their teammate is extra prepared, they're allowed to play. Because yes, maybe they're not prepared, but it's like in work, right? If I make a mistake and I don't finish my two papers, but my coworker gets them done for me, the job is still done.
And I like that because where I make a mistake is I bring pairs of shin guards. Yeah. I shouldn't do that anymore because they're like, oh, I don't have to remember
it's not important for me.
We think we're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
We're hurting them.
Yeah, because in the long run, they're like, Coach Kevin, I don't need to bring one.
Man,
my kids have started to understand that.
I get that, man. I love that, man. Because I always have 2 pairs because I know one I know I'm enabling it because he forgot his like twice in the season.
So a lot of the time, with the younger ones when they were in the academy, I gave an extra pair of shin guards to my captain. And so then my captain seems like he's the savior, right? I don't need to be so good. But then now they respect their captain more because their captain's like, oh, I have extra shin guards.
That is so good, man. I got to do that, man.
Because like I said, the accountability is big. Because then you get into, let's say, I learned that, like I started really hammering on that myself when I went to Europe the first year there. Because if you forget your jersey at the hotel, we're 20 minutes away on a bus ride to the hotel. Guess what? You're not playing that game, and you're in Europe. And now you missed one of the maybe 15 games you get to play while you're there because you didn't want to bring your stuff. Yeah. So that's what a lot of times, like preparing them for that to be like, hey, you're gonna have coaches that are a lot worse than me. Mm-hmm. You have coaches that are better than me. Yeah. But if you're prepared, they can't harp on you for that.
Yeah, and I think too. And I know you have your age when you start holding them responsible, but I think there's no better time than when they're younger as opposed to waiting until like 16.
Yeah, 15. Exactly. And I think that's why, like, once they go, like, so I think when the 13s it was, so the same for the U11s, the same one U10s. So next year they go select in July. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to hold them more accountable, where it was like, if you don't bring tennis shoes to practice, we run. Mm-hmm. That was like the first one. It's like, everyone has tennis shoes. You know, everyone goes to school in tennis shoes. Mm-hmm. Just put your tennis shoes on, cleats in a little bag. Obviously, it raises a problem because some kids can't tie shoes and so on and so forth. But it's like, I'm fine with tying your shoes if that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that. Like, it's not a big deal. I had a kid this year, so once they go select, I require them all to tie their shoes. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
He did not tie his shoes the first couple of weeks. He didn't play in 2 games. Guess what he came back on Tuesday telling me? Yeah, I'm serious. He came back and said, Coach, I'm going to tie my shoes. Because he's so excited to, like, he learned so he could play. It's a reward system where it's like, hey, it's a simple thing where you should be able to do this.
Ken, I can't tell you how good that is in terms of like building character.
Exactly. Again, it's raising good humans. Like we're part of the raising process, whether we want to be or not. We're part of these kids' childhood, and they're gonna remember like, oh well, I know how to do this now because Coach Kevin made me do it. Coach Kevin made me bring shin guards to practice, so I didn't forget them. Yeah. They go to work and they look in their bag, like, I have this, in their briefcase, and they're like, oh, I'm missing my laptop. But they realize that because they're not just grabbing it and running out the door. Yes. Because you taught them, hey, you check your bag to make sure everything's in the bag. It's not someone else's job to do it.
And the thing is, too, like, when something happens, and I'm just meaning when they're adults, they're not going to play the victim.
Yep.
They're going to take responsibility.
Exactly. Like, sorry, boss, I got this at home. Yeah. Guess what? The boss respects it a lot more. Yeah. I have a kid that loves to make excuses. Hey, to make an excuse, I don't care. It's one of those things where excuses don't work for me.
That's great. And for the next question, in terms of for example, so you coach 17 girls and your oldest, are you 13?
U13, yeah. So U7 and U13, those are my two extremes, I guess.
So when you're training them or coaching them, what are the differences that what things do you focus on between like the ages?
Yeah, so it's funny because I'm a younger coach. I'm 26. I just turned 26 Saturday. But with a lot of the things my U13s learn, I've done it down for my U7s. So if my U13s are learning to possess the ball in tight spaces where it's a 5-2 rondo type thing, I'll go to my U7s and we'll do like you always name it something fun for them, obviously, like a knockout. Where there's one ball, there's one person trying to get the ball out of the square. And it's a 4v1 instead. So now the U7s have one ball, they're passing it around, and the one player in the middle is just trying to kick it away. And that's it. So instead of it being 5v2, the U13's 5v2, you have 2 touches, ball can't be at your feet for more than 3 seconds. If you split, you stay in the middle. If you make, you stay in the middle. Stuff like that. The U7's is like, all right, there's one ball, it's knockout.
I see.
You dribble around, you can move, yeah, but the U13s, you stay in the spot, you can move side to side, step, you play. It's quick. For them, it's just, I don't think they understand once pressure, for the 7s, it's like once pressure arrives, I have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So if they kick it out, I guess he's in the middle now.
Yeah. I see.
And so it's just little things like that, but like the biggest thing, especially for the U7s, that the U13s have is just like my verbiage. So like I say, everyone has different words for things. Where if I want you to pressure, I'm usually yelling go, 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 go. I'm not yelling press, 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 press. It just depends on like what people say. So understanding from my U7s, obviously you're not really pressing because it's 4v4, but I'm like get wide. Understanding that wide means outside, and get high. High means up. Get back. Back means back.
Yeah.
And tuck in means come inside. So for them, it's a lot of the time when we do 2v1s, I'm like, hey, space, where's the space? Where's the space? For the 13s, it's like, hey, get wide. Instead of being find the space. Yeah. They know where the space is. They just have to find it now. Yeah. The 7s, they don't know where it is. So like look for the space. And so you'll see kids like stop in the middle of the drill and look out wide. And they run out there. It's like perfect.
I see. Yeah. And that's something I had to learn too. Yeah. Like you I tried to use the same verbiage for 6-year-olds.
It doesn't work. Yeah, no.
They just stand there like,
wait. You're like, hey, I need us to all tuck in. Look at you. Huh? Like, what does that even mean? Yes.
Oh man. And then the last question is geared towards American youth soccer.
Yeah.
And if you could change one thing about the American culture for youth soccer, whether it's not just like on the field or with coaches, but like even outside, to improve the level of players and coaches in the country, what would it be?
I think each state should have a league system where it's just, even if it's Division 10 to Division 1, and that's it. Yeah. Not extra league. You can have a national league, sure, where it's like the same thing. But you have one league where it's Division 10 is, kids that are learning to play, and you can regionalize it even, where it's, North Texas, U.S. soccer, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. And North Texas U.S. soccer, you play against all the other North Texas teams. They're all just thrown into a pool.
Yes.
And if you have to make 20 divisions, so be it.
Yeah.
That at that point makes it so the competition level is consistent. I'm sure you get in games where you get smoked.
Oh.
And then the next weekend, in the same week, you do the reverse.
It's crazy.
It's like these kids are like, where do I fit in this situation? I think the biggest thing is for the parents. They're like, well, are we good or are we not good? Because that team beat us by a lot. We beat this team by a lot. So where do we fit in, the rankings of this thing? But I think if we could just have one big, it's the same thing as like with the pro for US soccer. Like, UPSL is great, USL is great, MLS is great. All these leagues are great, but it has to be just MLS. Or, and it's MLS Division 4, 3, 2, 1. Simple. Done. Cut the other leagues out. And it doesn't need to be, MASL, NSL, blah, blah, blah. Because then you get into UPSL, like 4 beat an MLS 2 team. So what does that mean about UPSL? Is it better than MLS 2? No, but maybe.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. 100% know what you mean.
And it's just, even if it's like, I think the way it used to be in North Texas was pretty good, where you have, I think Plano having a league is fine, and then Classic. Now we have Plano, we have Classic, we have MLS Mainstream, EC now, we have FDL, which is a new one. We have, all these.
When I was playing, it was just classic.
Exactly. Classic should be the cream of the crop. And at that point, you make it so you can have MLS next, so sure. Where you get to play against the other teams in the country, whatever it may be. But if you have Classic and you have Plano, right? That means the goal for the Plano teams are to get to Classic. The goal for the Classic teams are to stay in Classic. Simple. Yeah. It's not, we don't qualify for Classic. Let's go play NPL, which is same quality level, but we can get in without having to qualify. If everyone has to qualify for it, that makes it more competitive for everyone. And so I think that would be the biggest thing. Is just like figuring out a way to make it so the leagues are just always competitive. Obviously, it's hard. It's a difficult thing to do because you have teams that bring up players and drop players. And I have 2012s that play for my 2011. And it's like, well, where do they fit? So on and so forth. And it makes it difficult to be like, well, the Texas Spurs 2012 boys, well, aren't that great without these two players? But we had these two players. They're incredible. It's like, okay, yeah, but what? So it just depends on like how you want to make it. If it has to be age pure, make it age pure. That's fine. Because if a kid age pure and forced to be age pure, and you go to a team that's Division III in North Texas U.S. Soccer, and he's killing it, and you have to find a new team. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, maybe sometimes you love the coach, or you can say, hey, my kid's still growing. Leave him. But I think a lot of the time what happens is you get a kid that's incredible at 2012. And they're like, well, we don't really want to go play anywhere else. So what can we do? And they put him on a 2012 11 team. It's like, yeah, it's good for the kid. And he's developing. But it's hard as well for that kid to be in 2 years when everyone gets puberty and he's not in puberty. Now he has to go back to his old team. Where they're like, oh, well, you left us to go play for that team. Kids, again, they're pure, but they know, like, what's going on. Like, oh, you left because you think you're better than us. You left because you wanted to not be with us anymore. And so it's a hard thing to do when the leagues are so just large and skill gap. Where you have teams where you're like, man, this team came straight out of rec, which isn't a bad thing, but they should be playing against other teams that came straight out of rec. It's that simple. They can't be, my Division I Classic team can't go play a team that came out of rec. It's just not going to be fun for anyone. What does anyone learn? Neither team. Neither team wins. I always tell my team, like, I'd rather lose 9-0 than win 9-0 because we're learning more about what we can fix. If you win 9-0, you look like you're the best ever. This game is easy and we're fine and we get to just keep rolling.
And that's what I say too, is that you can be delusional when you're just winning games left and right, and then those bad habits can carry on. And then your team gets exposed as players catch up.
The disease of me. I'm sure you've heard that before.
No, I haven't.
Unfortunately, the disease of me is where, like, if we're up 6-0 and I've scored 2 goals, someone else scored 2, someone else scored 2, you haven't scored yet. Well, we got 6 goals scored. I want 1. The disease of me takes over. Instead of playing soccer, you're like, well, I'm going to go score these goals because that's my job. I want a goal too. Everyone else, we're up 6. Who cares? Like you said, the mistakes start to build because you're like, well, I need a goal. Everyone else has some. And so it's those little things where it's like, if I don't think it'll ever happen, obviously. I think we're maybe in the future, some of these leagues will blow up. But I think MLS Next will be around for a long time. I think Classic, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the best way for Classic to try and be competitive with some of these big leagues to try and get into other states. Where if you win, or you're top 3 in Texas in D1 Classic, then you play the top 3 in Oklahoma in D1 Classic for a tournament.
Like a regional thing.
So let's say you have Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona. That's your region. And those 15 teams at the end of the year that are top 3 in their D1 Classic play in the tournament. That's the big thing. Where you get to go play at whatever nice fields you can get. Let's say it's in Texas, and you get to play at Richland on the stadium fields, and then the final gets played in the Cotton Bowl or something like that. Where it's, it's a big deal. And then if that's the stuff they're doing, it makes it so those teams have to be competitive because you want to play in the Cotton Bowl. Teams want to play against other teams, the best teams in the region.
And bragging rights.
Exactly. And then if you win, or say you get to the final, then let's say there's 5 regions across the country. Those 10 teams go to somewhere for the big time. That's the big deal one where people travel into town, wherever it may be. And you say, all right, these 10 are the best in the country. Go at it. Have a tournament. See what happens out of it.
And I wanted to ask you too, when you said the leagues, and then he said by state. What do you mean by? You know what I mean? You remember? Like, what do you mean?
So like, it's because if you look at rankings, which obviously mean nothing. You'll have like teams from Arkansas. They're the number one team in Arkansas. But the number one team in Arkansas probably isn't the number one team in Texas. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So by state, yeah, they're incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But if you have it, so Arkansas has their top three, right? Now they still have a chance.
Okay.
They still get to play against the top three in Texas.
Okay.
And then Oklahoma still gets to play against the top three in Texas and Arkansas. And so by state, I mean like each state has their own classic league.
Okay.
And so classic league, Texas classic league, Oklahoma, Texas league, Arizona, Louisiana, Arkansas.
Mm.
So there's 5 of them total.
Mm.
And they play their year-round tournament, or their year-round just playing games,
Mm.
and then the top 3 from each of those.
I see.
Or let's say it could even be, let's say we realize Arkansas in 2 years are not as good. Their top 2 are pretty good. Their third one kind of gets thrown in there and gets smoked every. Okay, then Arkansas gets 2. And
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and Oklahoma gets 4.
Okay,
If
next.
it shows consistently, like, hey, these Texas
Yeah,
teams are beating these other teams by art. I think as long as one team from each state gets in, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like that top team, they get a reward. No matter, even if they're getting smoked every single year, we get to the point where it's like one team from Oklahoma is coming and one team from Arkansas, but then 3 from Arizona and 3 from Louisiana, 4 from Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's talking about that too.
Yeah.
If there could be a difference.
Yeah, I think that just
performance.
Yeah, I think that just comes from like if it's like the Dallas Cup, where they love to bring in international teams. And as a North Texas team, it's hard to get into the Dallas Cup.
Yeah.
Because
you got to be extreme.
Yeah, you have to be one of those top 20 teams in North Texas. You got to win Classic D1. You got to win Plano Labor Day. One of those things you have to win it to get it. But if you're from California, then you should apply. You have a chance to get in just because they're from California. They don't care if they do art anymore. It's just the fact of bringing everyone together. Or they had a team from Costa Rica this year that I think gave up 63 goals in 3 games. But it's like it's more about they have a team from Costa Rica coming. Then, like, obviously you could put other teams in there and they're probably going to do better, right?
Yeah.
But it's about that team from Costa Rica got to travel. They got to come here. They got to experience it. And that's what Dallas Cup is supposed to be about. It's like the international, bringing people together.
Yeah. It's a great experience, man. And Cannon, man, I want to appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This was very, very good for me. And one thing, and there's some things I can implement immediately.
I'm glad.
Which is what I'm gonna do, starting today with my 4 teams.
Good.
But that's it, guys. This is Evo Toka. Stay tuned for the next episode. Awesome.